We're recording. All right, so we got DJ Smallwood here in the hot pit. DJ, congratulations on the newest news that come out with being named the race director of the Northern All-Star Series. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
When the funny thing is, when I decided to do this hot pit segment, it's just weird that like all the Northern All-Star Series late model news started coming out, right? So you got hired as the race director. Brett Ngasi was hired as the tech director. And it's just like, this is like perfect timing, right? I mean, the only thing we didn't do is get James on here, but hopefully one of these days it'll happen. So
yeah,
I do. Well, let's just start off with let's start where you got started in this, like, because I know we talked on the phone yesterday, and there's a lot of like credentials that you do have as far as before this deal came about. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So I mean, man, I don't know. Geez, I feel like, so I've been around the sport. I mean, feels like all my life pretty much. And so I actually did some racing and did the super dirt stock, street stock stuff for I guess maybe 5 years ago. Then I decided, well, I need to go big time and I'm going to get a modified. So I did some modified racing for a while. And then once I got out of that, and I kind of, I guess, total about 15, 20-ish, 18 years, whatever. I was like, man, this is just stupid amount of money, and I can't compete the level I want to compete at. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to step out of the car. I've had a good run. I've had fun, and it is what it is. Family is more important and all that. So then Josh King decided, well, hey, I need a tech guy. I'm like, well, I'm going to be at the racetrack anyway. So I took the tech role over at Florence and did that for a while. And he had always went to Speed Weeks and helped Lucas Oil. And I guess after however many years he did that, 15 plus or whatever it was, and he said, man, I'm tired and I need a break. He said, if you want to go, if you're interested, I'll tell Schwally that you'd fill in for me if you're okay with that. And I said, well, man, yeah, sure. That gives me something to do. And I get to go to Florida in the wintertime. That'd be awesome. So that worked out. I went and did, God, I don't know, maybe 5 years or so on or off, give or take there with the Lucas Oil team, and had some good experiences and got to go to some other places as well, just kind of as a fill in, not like a steady anything like that. But I really later, when Steve Francis was over there doing the tech for Lucas Oil, me and Francis kind of hit it off, I guess, a little bit. And so then when he took the role in World of Outlaws, he said, hey, if you ain't doing anything, he said, would you be interested in coming to work for me next year? And I said, well, yeah, well, I mean, let's talk about it. I mean, I'm interested, you know. So it's the stars lined up, and then I hadn't done any Lucas Oil stuff in a couple of years. It was through COVID and all that, so they kind of slimmed back. It wasn't like I'm not wanting to or anything like that, but it was just kind of they cut back to their core full-time guys, which is, hey, that's totally cool. And so Steve had offered, hey, man, I need somebody. I was like, well, like I said, we was able to make the stars line up. So then I jumped over there and did some work for them last year and ended up race directing probably, well, from Talladega on. So after all the rainouts in the springtime, then we went back to racing. And from Talladega on, I race directed over there. And that was that, you know. They did want to make it a full-time position, but I'm not from Charlotte. That was what they wanted, was a full-time guy from there. So it worked out. And so now I'm doing some stuff for Sam Drigger and Dirt Car. So Summer Nationals, I'll be doing all the Hell Tour. But I guess prior to that, before I got confirmation with Sam that I was going to do that, James had reached out to me and says, hey, I'm kind of getting this thing going. The Northern All-Stars back up. He said, I'm kind of looking for a race director. Would you be interested? I was like, man, yeah, I kind of would be, but I've kind of got something else in the works, but let me see how that works out. But I'm definitely interested. I'd love to work with you on this. So long story short, it all worked out. The schedules don't conflict in anything. So I still get to do my dirt car. So still with World Racing Group, but now I'm hooked up with James and get to do the Northern All-Star stuff too. And I'm really excited about it.
That's awesome. So let's talk about that for a second, because
there's a lot there.
There's a lot. Yeah. And I know that, you know, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but like, let's talk about the regional scene, because you're doing the Dirt Car Summer Nationals, right?
Yep.
Is a crazy ordeal through the summer, which I think is phenomenal. And then now James has bumped his schedule up to 8 races. Let's let's talk about that a little bit. Like where we see
Sure.
regional racing at right now in the United States, in the
Um,
Midwest.
so Francis had asked me about this, back, I don't know, maybe around Charlotte when we were at the World Finals. And he said, man, do you really think, because that's when it really came up. And man, James is getting a Northern All Stars thing. And he asked me, he says, man, do you really think there's room for another regional series right now? And I said, well, the more I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, I feel like that's kind of I'm not going to say that's keeping us alive, but and I do. I kind of feel like the regional stuff is help keeping late model racing alive. We see a lot of local tracks have cut back on their weekly super late model stuff. A lot of teams aren't necessarily gonna. I feel like there's a lot of teams that probably aren't gonna drop back and do modifieds or crate stuff. They're
Right.
late model teams for a reason, and that's what they want to be. So if they can't race late models, some teams will probably just fold up, and nobody wants to see any more teams quit racing. So I think the regional stuff, anything that's within a guy's region, within a couple of hours of his house, and the pay is decent, and man, that's a big thing too, especially with pricing everywhere. If the pay is decent, the guys are going to make that 2 or 3 hour trip that versus back before they wouldn't have. But now these regional series of keeping these guys and keeping late model racing locally or regionally, I think that's keeping it alive, and those guys are also, I feel like, what's feeding into the Lucas Oil and the World of Outlaw series. I mean, because without the regional stuff, well, where are these guys coming from?
Right. Exactly. And it's one of those things where teach their own, right? And everybody's got their own talents, and there's a lot of
Right.
young drivers that's coming up and stuff like that. But in my opinion, as long as the regional, like you said, as long as the regional pool is very, very talented,
Yes.
to me, dirt late model racing is in an awesome place right now because
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah, I think so. And, I think this, the deal with the Northern All Stars firing up, I think that's just another prime. The potential is huge there. I know Chris Tilley has got the American Ironman series that's coming up. I mean, that's going to be a good series as well too. And I'm pretty sure, I don't think those schedules overlap each other. So I mean, there's a lot of racing there that's for our regional area that helps a lot of guys out be able to go back and forth and run both series.
Yeah, I agree. And I kind of noticed that too when the Ironman series the schedule was released. I was like, man, the Northern All Stars, the Ironman series, all of these aren't conflicting with each other.
Right.
Plus, too, with a lot of the Lucas and World Outlaw shows, a lot of drivers can still run those as well.
Yeah.
So I think, man, if even from a regional standpoint, if a guy wanted to run, 40 to 50 races a year, the potential's there. You know what I mean?
It is. I mean, a guy can run as much as he wants or as little as he wants. It's
Yeah, absolutely. And for sponsorships being such a crucial part of this sport, and the young guys coming up, I think it gives them a chance to run these, the Ironman series and the Northern All Star series to get that exposure to, eventually, hopefully, propel them to the next level.
Sure, and just the little bit of travel that it is, it gives them or prepares them if that's their future and that's where they're going to make it to, they've got that stepping stone now that hey, they know what the travel's like. It's
Right.
maybe they don't know that national level yet, but they get the idea of hey, we're going to be on the road, and just I think it just prepares everybody for it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now all we really need is the Battle of the Bluegrass to come back and we'll have, like,
Hey,
won't it be
you
awesome?
never know, right?
One thing I did want to ask you, during the interview is for a lot of people at home that might not know,
Yep.
what does the race director consist of? Like, what are your job functions going to be?
Oh man, that's awesome. So a lot of times I'll get to the track, depending on and how it goes. A lot of times I'll go over the competitors' notes. So with each series or whatever, it can be handled differently. A lot of things I'll do to prepare is go over the competitor notes. So I'll know exactly by the time we have our drivers meeting, I already know how many cars we have signed in, how many cars are registered in. We'll at that point know how many heat races we have, how many cars are going to transfer from the heat race to a B main, LCS, whatever, Conti, how many we taken from those races to the feature. So now we've got a format laid out. Then it's my job, or the race director job usually will conduct the drivers meeting, go over all the stuff, the pros, the cons, all the ins and outs for the speedway, explain to the drivers, especially if some of them are new to the place or don't normally run there. Here's where you go on the track. Here's where you come off the track. Just the ins and outs of the night, the program, how it's going to run. Then from there, from the driver's meeting, those guys go prepare and get ready, get in their cars for hot laps. I go to the tower at that point, get the headset on, make sure I have good communication with the flagman. Once race starts, race controls would be basically under my control at that point. Once the yellow flag drops, it's up to me. You know, there's usually a scoring person right there sitting next to me, or they have a headset on so they can hear it. The flagman also the same. So if I say yellow, 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 and I explain to them where it is, everybody knows at that point where the caution is, what it is, things like that.
Right.
Starts, restarts. That's another big one, you know. If there's a start zone or a start cone, you know, it's my job to make sure that's a good, clean start. And again, explain that to the drivers at the drivers meeting. Guys, here's what I'm expecting at the start of each race. If it's a fire together, if it's a pulsar sets the pace, pulsar starts the race type situation, it's my job to make sure nobody jumps or nobody gets out of line until it's a nice, clean start. And if I got to call it back, whatever I got to do at that point to call it back and make sure we have a good, clean start and good race.
That's awesome.
I
know there's always been a lot of questions about like what does these positions actually do. So I think it's a lot of great information.
Yeah, it's a lot there, and it's some of that is, man, you have like a split second to make that call or not. You know, last year there was a call I made at Fairbury. Ricky Thornton was leading the race, and I mean, he immediately, I could see it because it just happened to be checking. You can't. People don't understand. Well, why didn't they throw the caution, or why did that come out so late, or whatever? It's like, man, when you're race directing, you're just doing this the entire time. There's a lot of times I don't see the race, but I see the cars going around because I'm looking for stuff to go wrong or whatever. But Ricky Thornton was coming off of turn 4. The car died, and you could see when those cars die and they just sit down, it's dead in the water. Well, right. I got the rest of the field coming on him, and I'm like, hey, that's an instant yellow because I don't want anybody getting ran over, anybody getting hurt. Right. It came out very quickly, but he didn't get run over. Nobody got hurt. Nothing got tore up. So you got to be able to make those calls at like a split second. You know, do I have time? Is it a back marking car? Is it a car toward the back that, okay, is he going to collect it and keep on going, or does it need a caution immediately? And sometimes, like I said, you don't always have time to think about it. You just got to be able to, in your gut, know I got to make this call. And majority of the time, I'm going to go on the side of safety, you know, and that can be good or bad.
For sure. But I will say one thing, though. Ricky Thornton, that race, I've never seen, I don't know if he'll ever watch this, but Ricky Thornton, I've never seen him drive like that. I know that he's very, very talented. Will man. But for something that just put him on a whole new level.
Man, like that boy, he was on the move. He was going, you know, and it was one of those things. It's like, he's probably going to win this race. So
he was moving on the top, just beating the deck down. So it was pretty wild to watch.
The man was getting it done.
For sure. One other thing, you know, talking about the Northern All-Star Series, you know, with you being the director now. So last weekend at Brownstown got rained out due to Mother Nature. The race is scheduled for next Saturday, the 9th.
Yep.
Is there any plan, because I know with James doing the Lucas Oil deal, you've got the Summer National stuff going on. Is there any rain out dates for the Northern All-Star races, or are they just, if we don't get them in, then they're done for the year type of thing?
Well, I would have to say, you know, and this is kind of, I know James has a lot to do with this because of his schedule being so busy. I feel like there's probably bigger gaps in mine other than that Summer Nationals. I feel like James's time is probably what's going to determine the biggest part of that. I mean, obviously you got to go with what the track can do as well. You know, they got to look at their schedule and see what they have opening. Do they have any TBAs that they could squeeze this in? But, you know, I know James has got a lot on his plate with all the Eldora stuff that he does and the Lucas Oil stuff. You know, I know his schedule is probably pretty tight. So it's probably going to have to revolve around that if he's got any openings. So I would say that question or that answer would go through James.
Yeah. I figured so, but I thought, you know what?
Yeah.
I know if people watch this, you know, it might be a question they might bring up or whatever.
Right.
As far as like the conversations that you and James have had, I know that Josh Rice won the championship last year. Jordan won Rookie of the Year. Are we going back with the same titles this year as far as the champion and Rookie of the Year?
Far as I know, I mean, man, I know James he's extremely busy. I mean, that guy, I don't know.
I don't know how he does it, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know how he knows coming or going, but with the schedule that he has, him being the series director, he's going to be like, hey, here's those things. I haven't talked to Josh Rice to see, hey, are you coming back? Or, I mean, I would say that this is going to fit his wheelhouse, his schedule pretty good, especially with the Army and stuff. I would say he'd probably be trying that again as well. I've seen that their pay has gone up a little bit for their championship as well. So I'd have to think he's like, man, just chomping at the bit to get to both series,
Right. One of the other thing I wanted to talk about too while we're on here is Slingin Dirt Media. Let's talk about that. So you're also doing some YouTube content as well. How's it going, and what plans do you have for that?
So the Slingin Dirt Media have a Facebook page and YouTube channel. Basically, it just started as an idea as, man, there's a lot of great stories. Every racer's got them, good and bad. Some of them we don't want to tell on camera, but there's a lot of good stories that I feel need to be shared with the younger generation, the people that are coming into the sport. Man, they don't always know. A lot of them never heard of CJ Rayburn and how much helpful he's been to a lot of racers. The Jack Boggs story, the Jack Boggs saga, how it went, in every direction and stuff. And there's not necessarily a history class to this sport, but these kids, and they don't always know this stuff. And these are just great stories who made the sport what it is. Right. And if we don't record some of these stories, I feel like they're just lost. They're going to go away eventually. So it's, I'm not saying take it upon myself. I mean, I feel like it's a lot of fun for me. I love going. It was sit in racer shop. We'll set the table, cameras up. A lot of times, if they still have a race car, if it's not a retired driver, we'll use their race car as the actual backdrop. So we're sitting in their shop right next to a car, and we just throw the equipment up and start telling stories, how they got to where they're at, and and what they're looking forward to, and all this stuff, and just get some of those stories and share them. I just it's fun. I love it.
I'll make sure I'll drop a link to your YouTube in the description below.
Awesome.
Video to kind of help get some travel too.
Awesome.
Because it's so cool. Like when you're talking about but when you talk to drivers and just listen to some of the stories of the other drivers or car owners or whoever that influenced them over the years.
Yeah.
Like CJ Rayburn Memorial Race at Brownstown last year. Mike Marlar won it, and CJ had such an impact on him through his racing career that it's just crazy that. Yeah. I think if that race wouldn't have paid anything to win, Mikey would have been just as happy. Just
because, definitely. I mean, to win something like that is those guys just the title of it, knowing what race it is. Right. Man, they'd have been there for $5. It don't matter. They want to win that race.
Yeah, and some of the trophies too. Like I did some shop talk with drivers, and like they don't ever mention the money that they won on that race, but it's how cool the trophy is.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
Cool that they get that much enjoyment out of the trophy. I think it's cool. Even like back in the old days, like that's what we used to race for, right?
Yeah.
And half the time a driver might hand it out in the stands to, like Mike Jewell Brownstown always took his up and handed it to the stands. So, it's just.
I like it. I like it when we see those unique trophies. I mean, this is an iconic trophy. When you see this trophy, you know what it is. You know when you see a World 100 trophy, you see that globe, you know what that is. When you see a North South 100 trophy, it's got the stars and bars and the confetti. You know that trophy. The toilet bowl, when you win a toilet, the customized toilet, you know what that trophy's from.
It don't even have to have a plaque on it saying what it is, but you know exactly where that trophy came from.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, I'm super thankful that you got on here today and talked to me, because like I said, it's just weird how this all come together, and then we were talking on the phone yesterday about trying to figure out a date and time, and I'm good whenever, just because it's going to be a cool story. You got a YouTube channel, you're doing some race director stuff, so and I just started Hot Pit, so I was like, this would be cool for DJ, first one in the Hot Pit, and let's talk about it.
Let's do it. Let's dive in.
Absolutely. So I do appreciate you talking to me. I know you guys got some family stuff going on today. So yeah, I just want to say thank you for coming on, being the very first person in the Hot Pit.
Absolutely.
I'm sure that I will see you at a track sometime this summer for sure.
Yeah, for sure. That's how I end every one of my Slingin Dirt Media episodes. I always end it with, I'll see you at the track next week, because that's probably where you're going to find me.
Absolutely. And we do this because we love it, and then that's where we're going to be, at dirt track on a weekend. So
100%.
Yeah. DJ, I appreciate you coming on, bud. And I'm sure I'll see you at a track soon.
All right, buddy. Sounds good. Thank you. Appreciate everybody tuning in. And don't forget all those likes and subscribes.
Thank you very much.
All right, man. See ya. Thanks.